Good day, and welcome to the Integrity Investing Network's Investment Analyst Room, the, the Integrity Investing Network Analyst Room. I am your analyst for this evening, Adnan Cartwright. As always, we do need to cover our forex investing disclaimer. Forex does carry a heavy risk when it comes down to trading foreign commodities. You should always invest money that you can afford to lose. Remember that you are your very own custodian of your own account. Any and all trades executed must be done at your discretion. Any ideas shared here is that of the Integrity Investing Network, and then of course, you know that past results don't, of course, produce that future result in play of what was shown. So what was shown last month doesn't pertain to that of this month. All right, with that being said, let's get right into the live markets. So right here, we had taken a look at the entity USD when it came down to the trade plan idea shared on Sunday. Now, the cool thing about this trade plan idea was that we looked at 0.5880 as our line in the sand, and we wanted to ensure that we got a rejection off of this area. Now, leveraging the tools, this is one that I'm leveraging here from Rinder Trade. If you want to be able to acquire this tool, you can always go to rindertrade.com. That's RINDERTRADE.com. And the fine folks over at Rinder Trade will be more than happy that you acquire said tool and automation strategy. But nonetheless, we are still looking to sell the NZD USD down to 0.5700. Now, in the beginning of the early week, we had taken a position. This position was taken, this was held over the weekend if you had taken this position and had multiple opportunities for you to get out of said position. Um, Trailing stop loss would have been hit as you were moving down locking in profit, and or you would have pretty much held this trade and you would be pretty much break even at this juncture at this point if you're still within the trade. Was up a little bit but still break even. If you were late to the trade in terms of not taking this sell position, you could have gotten in on this position here. Not too much to be to sing home about, but you're up about, was up about 20 plus pips. So if you're looking for a 20 pip scalp, this would have been the opportunity. And another opportunity here on the close of this candle. Again, another 20 pips in that regard. So that's the NZD USD. What we're going to do right now in terms of looking at all of the automated entries that we had taken, we're going to pause at this current time until we get below 58.80. There's no intention or really any plan to sell. So we're going to pause here in that regard. So the next currency pair that we have in mind is going to be that of gold. And we're looking at gold, zooming here a little bit, trading this Fibonacci down. So we had a down AB retracement, we pushed down, we came to our level of support. So we had this take profit set in line at 46.75. So the next point of view or the next opportunity would be us turning off the magnet and bringing in the path. We're looking for us to come back up into this 47.75 area, find resistance, and then push back down, right? So one of two ways that this trade can actually take place, actually one of three. One, for a guaranteed entry, we do need a rejection off of 47.75, meaning that the market needs to come into this area, it needs to stall. If 47.75 is breached in any form or fashion, that is going to invalidate the trade. We are no longer looking to sell. So we have to be mindful of that. The other thing that we can do too as well, too here as well, is that we can utilize the trend line, and this pretty much is just for optics. But from your viewing point, you can utilize this too as a line in the sand. If 47.75 has been breached, as well as this trend line has been breached, we can look for this to continue bullish in that regard. But as long as we stay below both, mainly 47.75, we'll look to sell. So we have our area of interest that we would like to go short in terms of a higher time frame. So what we can do now is take this down to a lower time frame, like a 15-minute time frame. Still have some ways to get up there, but once we get up there, we can look for a simplistic candlestick formation. We can look for a trendline break, and we can take gold selling back down to the lows of support. So our trade in terms of a forecast is going to look something like this. We come back up to this level. Our stop is going to be above these fractal high here, and our take profit is going to be down there. So a 1 to 3 when it comes down to your risk reward ratio when we're looking at gold. So be mindful of that when you're looking to get active. Another thing one can do too as well to like really play it safe is that if we come back over here to our empty floor terminal, we can open up gold here and we can get this window up and going. We can bring this over to a 15-minute time frame, and this is where we can get in and we can take a look at, say, something like Formation Tracker. Formation Tracker is registering this as bearish right now. As we get up to the highs of 47.75, this will turn bullish, but we would need another bearish signal to come into play because we do need to have the bears in control, and then we'll look to sell our candlestick formations to the downside back to our take profit of 46.75 in that regard. So that's one way that we can look to get active, right? Wait for 47.75 so we can bring this up here and we can get into our objects list. There's a lot of objects happening. There we go. And then we can get here to 47.75 right there. 47.75. There we go. And we can hit OK there. So once the market price and structure returns back to this level here, this level holds, we'll be looking for bearish candlestick formations with formation tracker and a bearish confirmation on a histogram to show that we are indeed in control. Another thing that one can do too as well, if you don't want to leverage formation tracker auto as a tool to get in, you can leverage against string tracker, apologies, waiting again for that level where the bears would be in control. You can also take a look here at the FX scalper too as well, where you would wait for your system to go up into 47.75, and then when we crush back below the line and we get our bearish confirmation, we can pretty much start heading south in that regard. All right, so multiple ways one can get in when we're looking at gold in terms of us going short once we get into that sell high area. Remember, coming back here to our trading view application, um, there we go. What we need to do here is be mindful. 47.75 is the goal, so let's bring this back up to the 4-hour time frame. 47.75 is the goal. And what we want to do here is wait for price to return, yet again repeating, and then we'll look for a rejection off of this area here to have this pushed down. All right, so that is gold when we're looking to get active with the XAU against USD. Another aspect of this too as well is we can take a look here at AUD NZD. Now this is a slower moving pair, and we're looking to sell this one to the downside. So what one can do here too as well is that you can look for a bearish structure or a bearish candlestick formation and have this one pushed down to the downside. Now the thing with Audi NZD is that the downside we're near there already. This is going to be your level in terms of take profit. So we can round this up to 1.2 1.2060 1.2060. Right, so we are looking for that continued New Zealand strength, and we're also looking for that Audi weakness to come into the market when it comes down to us being able to get active here. If we take this down to a 1-hour time frame, you can simply just wait for a counter trend line break. So something in the neighborhood, or in the viewing, I should say. Let me get this here of this. There we go. So once this trend line here breaks to the downside, you'll be looking for a possible movement that resembles this, retest of the lows, and then we can push to the downside. So typically your entry when this does come to fruition, regardless of how the structure is going to play out, your trend line is going to be broken. You'll see that push down, but then you'll look for that play to come back into support. So this breaks, regardless of where it breaks, let's go to the lowest point possible, or to the lowest point I should say. When it comes down to the break, we can, if it breaks and we fall down, we can look for a retest there. So trend line break, we get our break, we have the retest there, and then we can look to enter the market in this area here and then push down to our D extension or to our take profit area when it comes down to the Australian NZD. If this continues to push up, great, right? We're not going to get active until we get a confirmed bearish structure, bearish signal on Aussie NZD. So this trend line is going to be one of the methods that we're going to follow this instrument until it breaks to the downside. The other aspect of this that we do want to take a look at too for our next possible trade is that of the GBP Audi. Now, I've been looking at the GBP Audi now for quite some time. We've broken this trend line and I'm looking for this market now to start pushing back up to the upside. We have not yet getting that structure as of yet. I like how we're bouncing and utilizing this area of support in play. So we'll utilize this as our line in the sand. So as long as we stay above 188.60, I am interested in buying the GBP Audi. So we can have this tick up as such. There we go. And we can get rid of 189.20 in that regard because we already went up, rejected, and came back down. So what we're looking to trade here is a possible Fibonacci structure that we have here. So this is 2 to the left, 2 to the right. So there's the up AB, and then that got violated because this was the B, and then this pushed up. So this Fibonacci here is no longer in play, right? That got taken out. So we can delete that, and we can delete that. So we are in a range of consolidation too as well. So let's do this. Let's utilize the range of consolidation to our advantage. So we'll call that as such. And because we want to buy, we are going to wait. Let's take a look at the measurement here. Okay, it's 50 pips in terms of the range. So what we can do is we can take this down to a 15-minute time frame. And this will be a scalping opportunity only. So whenever we come back down here into the lows of 188.50, we can turn our automation on to scalp to the upside. So how that would look is that if we return back here to our MT4 terminal, in our MT4 terminal, we can come here to GBP Audi. We'll open up this chart. Actually, we have a chart open already. And we can come to the 15-minute time frame. And if we want to have that confirmation in terms of double confirmation, we can put on a 4-hour. Realistically, we can just put on indicators, the histogram. We can bring this down to a 1-hour time frame. There we go. And we can hit close to that. And we can wait for this to turn bullish, and then we can take that buy. But keep in mind, you're in consolidation, right? So coming off the lows, here's a buy. Here's another buy. This was another buy. We don't want to get into the highs of the buy because remember the range in itself is just 50 pips. So we want to come off of these lows here. So once the market returns back to these lows, then I'm interested in buying. So right here off the rip, right here, this one was a buy. There's about 30 pips. Again, you're going to be scalping this market in this regard. So that's the EMA XCon when it comes down to being able to scalp the GBP Audi. If we're looking at the FX scalper in itself, we can look at again the lows coming off of the lows, which would be in this area here. So coming off the lows above, so right here is our entry, right here, and then there's your push, right? So you're only looking for that first position off the lows, nothing more, right? So came back down, hit the lows right here. This one was really late to the game. So you're pretty much sitting at a loss with this one here, to be quite honest. So that's a little bit too high too as well in terms of the buy. But this is where your stop would have been hit without a shadow of a doubt. So yeah, you would have lost about 20, 30 pips right here in that regard. And then you're coming back into it, so you're waiting again for the lows to come off. You can also take this one down to like a 30-minute time frame if you want to leverage that too as well. Again, this one here, this trade is just late to the game. By the time the indicator in the system registered it, it was too late. This one here was perfect. There's your push, and then wait for the lows to come in and come back here into play. If we take a look here at Formation Tracker would have gotten you in. So there's the buy. This candle here, we would have bought here. Even though this is a bearish candlestick formation, we buy on the bearish candles given that they give us a lowest price possible. So here would have been your 20 pip scalp. Here is another entry when it comes down to the buy. So there's another 12 pips or so. It would have come back, but then push, all set. And then your last positioning when it came down to being able to go long would have been here on this candle here. When it comes down to a bullish candle, and then again, bearish wise, nothing came into play because we never came back to the bottom here, right? So it comes down to really your discipline of looking to say that I want to trade only coming off of these lows in this regard. So that's how one would have gotten active. In hindsight, the first couple of candles didn't produce anything. Let's take this down to a 15-minute. Let's see what happened. So 15-minute time frame. Let's zoom in just a tad bit. So let's do that, and let's turn off the income and tick data. And so right here, yeah. So right here is a doji. This would have taken if you had to select it as one of your candlestick formations. We go against trading indecision candles either way you put it, so this trade would not have been taken unless you were like super aggressive. This trade here, in terms of this engulfing bearish candle right here, this would have netted you your 20 pips without a shadow of a doubt. And then you're pretty much just holding at that point. Nothing else to trade here. Here would have been another positioning. Again, and pretty much an indecision candle. But 10 pips would have dropped back down, but then pushed back up. That would have been your 20 right there. All depends on how you wanted to exit the trade. So many opportunities one could have taken in terms of scalping this market in that regard. Another route one could have taken to as well is just utilizing simplistic support and resistance, right? So if I bring in an hour time frame on GBP Audi with our tools, we can get support and resistance auto in play. It does need to have that income and tick data that comes into play. So there we go. And we can open this up. Let's make sure that this information is fresh. There we go. So income and tick data one more time just to make sure we have the right level. So perfect. So here we would have waited to come back into the lows. So if and when the market comes back to either DS05 or DS1, it will take the position for us and then we can push up. So this one, support and resistance, sometimes the most simplest methods are the most profitable when it comes down to market execution. And this right here is why utilizing the right tool and software is so crucial. So in consolidation, support and resistance is the go-to when it comes down to leveraging the market. And once you've identified your levels of where you would like to get active in the market, you would just activate it. So by all means, one could have just abandoned or ignored DSO5 and just come here to DSO1, take this position, and then there's your push right back to the pivot. And or when it comes down to like a take profit or to a scalp, or maybe even a trailing stop to see how high it may go, one could have exited the position in a multitude of ways. All right. So that's supporting resistance when it comes down to GBP Audi. And of course, this is on an hour time frame. The last tool I would like to take a look at too as well when it comes down as a possible entry when it comes down to the GBP Audi would have been Super Trend. Super Trend right now would have recognized the buy zone, which it does. We can refresh our data to get our arrows and everything in play. And now that they're situated, we would have taken a position right here at this low if you're looking to buy on a bearish candle, or we could have taken a position right here on this bullish candle, and there's your push for 20 pips too as well. If we take this to a lower time frame, you can see that the zones themselves, they keep on changing back and forward. But again, in the buy zone, right here, if you were selling the bearish candle, would have been your buy. If you were selling the bullish candle, buying the bullish candle, right here would have been your buy. You would have broken even here, but initially you would have been stopped out right here for about 36 pips, right? We're in consolidation. This is a trending strategy, trending software, so this is not going to bode well within a consolidation market. However, if you take this down to, or if you bring it up to, I should say, a 4-hour time frame, you have better clarity in terms of the trend. So this downtrend that we're in, we would have taken a position in terms of a bearish or bullish candle, depending on how you would want to enter the position. So say right here, bearish candle, this is our entry to the market. Market pushed up, but we're up about 102 pips now from that last entry when it comes down to the current trend that has been measured. Again, simplistic tools making things a little bit more easy and clear for one to see when it comes down to the specific market that you're trading. Okay, so that's the GBP Audi and the different tools, strategies, and software that one can utilize to get entered into the market. But remember, we're looking to go long with this one. So if we're looking at super trend, we're in a buy zone right now. So we would just look to pretty much buy the lows at this point. If you wanted to take a manual execution leveraging the strategy, you can just wait for market price to come back into the lows here, have a pending order set, and then you can push to the upside. And then there's your scale for about 20 to 30 pips in that regard. And you would just rinse and repeat with your stops below the most fractal low, where you protect your assets and your account with proper equity management following that simplistic guideline. All right, the next pair and the last pair for this evening's analyst is that of the GBP JPY. So let's head over into GBP JPY. There we go. So how we're sitting with this one now, let's get to a 4-hour time frame. We're looking for this to continue to the downside. But in order for this to continue to the downside, we're looking for another trend line break. So we had our first trend line break here, which pretty much played out not the way we expected it to play out, but eventually it did break and we did push down. So in hindsight, we're looking for a rinse and repeat. So we can get rid of that pathing and we can get rid of this trend line here. And what we want to do, we want to utilize an aggressive trend line for this next entry. So we can switch this over to a 1-hour time frame because we're trading the current trend. And we can bring in a trend line, a magnet, and then here would be the outer. And of course, we can move that out of the way. And then last but not least, this would be the current trend that you're trading. So we don't want to be super aggressive with this one. Super aggressive, meaning that I can do this, and then right there would have been the break. We would have sold, and we would have been pretty much break even at this point. This is not what we're looking for. We're looking for a break of the long-term trend line. In this case, with this current trend, this is the long term or the outer trend line, I should say. And then once this breaks, we can then proceed to sell the market to the downside. So we're looking for something yet again, like there's your break. We come back, we test the lows of support, now becoming resistance. And then here, we're looking to get active for that push down. So initially, we're looking to get active on the test of that past support now becoming future resistance. And we're looking to go short there. Reason being is because at this juncture, if this decides to break down, come back and test, we have enough data to facilitate our positioning. And how this would possibly look is that if the market decides to have this to be our entry point, this now will then become our stop and we can push down, and that's going to be our take profit in that regard. And where we're looking to get out in hindsight is the backside of this trend line. So once the market pretty much navigates to this line or comes near it, we're going to be looking to get out. Now, initially, this is the long-term take profit. The next take profit one should keep in mind would be in this level here. So we'll switch this over here to green. There we go. Ooh, bad coloring. So let's make this one, let's make it red. That's fine. So we'll look to get out at the lows here when it comes down to the break, retest, and then entry coming back into the lows of this support level. in that regard. So this is going to be a patient trade. We're not going to rush this one. And of course, if we continue to make higher highs and higher lows, this will invalidate this trade. So if the market structure um, tends to, let me get back to, apologies, not selecting the right one. If the market tends to come up and then continue to move to the upside, any movement like this will invalidate GBP JPY. And the moment that you see a higher high, higher than this high here at 25, to 150 and 45, we are looking to get out. So we can put that there and we can make this one here, make it a different color. So let's make it blue as such. And anything above 25.40, really, this will invalidate the trade. Okay, so be mindful of that. You're playing with a thin area here, and I have no interest in terms of selling in an uptrend. That doesn't make sense. It's counter trend trading. I have no intention of counter trend trading. Counter trend trading. We want to trend trade and go with the flow of the market, not fight against it. All right. So those are the pairs that we're looking to get active this week, given that the opportunities do present themselves. Please remember the price structure and movement that will come into play, that if they do present themselves, they're going to invalidate the trade, right? So it has to follow that strict guideline. If the plan is actually thwarted, or if there's any threat to it in any way, we are going to abandon that plan and we'll look to analyze the market yet again to see how best we can get into an active position. But right now, sitting to the sides, waiting to become active based on what we're looking at this week. Keep in mind, as a quick recap, NZD USD, we're no longer going to sell this position. Automation had a sell high, and then we came back down to 58.80. So this is the line in the sand. We're now above it. We need to get back below it, retest, and then we can look to sell. The overall goal here is 0.5700, and a trailing stop loss is going to be placed so that we can protect profits as we move to the downside. So again, waiting on the NZD USD 0.5880 for that to breach to the downside, retest, and then head to our take profit. Right now we're sitting to the side. Let's bring this back to the 4-hour time frame for better view of the NZD USD. The other trade that we're also taking a look at is that of the Audi NZD. Remember, we're looking for a counter trend line break and then a movement to the downside. So we're looking to get active only when 1.21, this level of support here, has been broken, retested, and then we're going to take that movement to the downside. Until then, we're to the side, patiently waiting. The next trade shared was that of GBP Audi. We are waiting to stay above 1.8860. So as soon as we start making higher highs, higher lows, we are looking to go long in that regard. Keep in mind, if you want to scalp this, you can get in at the lows here of support or the lows of this consolidation that we actually have formed here. Your stop is going to be very tight here. You're going to switch over to a lower time frame, realistically that of a 15-minute time frame, leverage support and resistance, and then trade this to the upside. All right, targeting either the tops and or your trailing stop loss, whichever one is going to be hit first. And then last but not least, we shared the GBP JPY. GBP JPY, we are going to be patient. We're going to wait for it to break below, retest, and once we have a retest and resistance is holding, we're then going to look to take this trade down to 214 dot, let's make this 10. Actually, we'll leave a few pips on the table. We don't want to be greedy here. So we'll go 214.20 in that regard. So that's the positioning in terms of take profit that we'll look to participate in. If And of course, we'll also utilize a trailing stop loss when it comes down to this order to lock in profit as quickly as possible. All right, all. That does it for today's analyst room with the Integrity Investing Network. April 21st, 2026. If you have any questions, you can contact us at CS Charlie Sierra at integrityinvesting.net. If you are interested in any of our products, you can reach us at TS Technical Support at integrityinvesting.net, and we'll be more than happy to assist you in acquiring one of our technology software when it comes down to automating and trading the market. Apologies for the motorbike in the back end. One of the kids in the neighborhood got a new toy. Alrighty. Have a wonderful and blessed day. This is Adnan Carter, your analyst. Take care.